Hey guys, my name's Tom and welcome back to the next episode of A Japanese Study Student Reacts to Documentaries About Japan. Today we'll be reacting to episode 5 of James May's Our Man in Japan, and we'll actually be skipping episode 4, and that's just because of how much content there was available in each episode. So this video will just have episode 5, and then the next video will actually have episodes 4 and 6 combined together into one video. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about everything I discussed in the comment section down below. And while you're there, how about leaving a like and subscribing? Now, without further ado, here's episode 5 of James May's Our Man in Japan.
Japan spends $200 billion a year playing Pachinko. That's twice the value of their entire export car industry. And just taking a look at the prizes on offer, you can easily see where all that money goes.
And had I been any good, look what I could have won. I could have had this Hello Kitty gonk for 540 balls.
Gambling laws in Japan are very strict, so pachinko machines aren't technically classified as proper gambling. I believe it's probably more classed like an arcade, a children's arcade maybe, and the prizes that he could have got are certainly like arcade prizes. But there should also be an option for someone who wins to take their prize tickets to a different shop down the road that just so happens to exchange pachinko tickets for money or better prizes. This way, the businesses avoid the gambling problem by dealing off the premises.
The racket. It is true that it's illegal to win money at Pachinko because gambling for money is not allowed outside of licensed places such as horse racing pitches. But what you can do on the quiet, which is why we have to be very discreet filming this, is you can exchange your balls or your Hello Kitty for this ingot. And you can change that for money, but you can't do it in there because that would be too blatant.
There we go. That's what I was just saying.
Hachan mentioned something earlier called hangover takoyaki, which is made from squid.
Is this like a pancake made with...
No.
So
like
what...
they say something like octopus dumpling or something.
So for anyone who hasn't had takoyaki before, I highly recommend it. Oh, it's so good. It's probably my favourite Japanese food. I've only been to 2 places in England that have served takoyaki, one in Manchester and one in London. And I think you're more likely to find it if you go to like a family-run restaurant. Places like Wagamama or like other chains, they don't do them, I don't think. But I don't really know why. Probably because octopus and squid are more expensive than in Japan. But if you ever get the chance to have takoyaki, I really recommend it. But be careful when you bite into them because they do burn your mouth. So just watch out for that.
We've used a huge piece.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very
Fresh
big
octopus.
piece, yeah. This is why
Each
our
one.
local comes here. How much does it cost?
Here, you can have a look.
6 pieces. Hey, it's cheap as hell. It's 400, it's like three quid.
Okini.
And street food is a lot cheaper in, well, all of Asia, really. We don't really have street food in England, and if there is any, it's usually just as expensive or even more so than an actual restaurant because of convenience or something. It's really dumb and I hate it because we really should have more street food.
The Kinki Sumo wrestlers are one of the top university teams in Japan.
But wrestling here is serious, isn't it?
Of course, and it's partially a Shinto ritual too, originally, for fertility and the good harvest, good rice, and
To entertain the gods.
absolutely. So even if you win, you're not allowed to express like that, like American fighter. Roar. That's totally
None of that
bad.
woo
Yeah,
stuff. You
yeah,
can't do
no
that.
American stuff here.
Just a...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I could be very wrong here, but I believe that sumo was actually started as a way to duel over debts and debates between middle and upper class people as well. They would pit their men against each other in a little duel, but with some quite strict rules, like no killing the other person. And the goal was to push the other person out of the ring. At first it was done with normal, thin men, as they were the people available to the leaders. Eventually, though, they realised it was better to just have an incredibly big man who couldn't be pushed out of the ring. Again, either some or all of that could be made up, but some or all of it could also be true. But it kind of makes a lot of sense. And then it later went on to to become involved in Shintoism and religion, and so I don't think women are allowed to participate in sumo wrestling, or at least maybe there's female sumo wrestling, I don't know, but they're at least not allowed to step into the ring while men are fighting and things like that.
Japan's top sumo stables will soon pick the best of these young wrestlers, and to be in with a chance, they're going to need strength, dedication, and massive balls of steel.
Obviously, these sumo guys look incredibly fat, and they are, but they're also probably really strong as well. And actually, to maximize strength, it's actually better to be fatter because you have more energy reserves. Think about a powerlifter, a competitor on World's Strongest Man, like the Mountain. They're not very lean, and it's because it helps to maximize their strength. And it also makes you a lot harder to push over in the ring.
This Japanese obsession with manga comic characters and superheroes and pocket monsters and all the rest of it, it's completely real. It's not just something we've imagined in the West. I've suddenly wondered, is it something to do with Shintoism? Because if you've got millions of gods and everything is invested with a spirit, then it seems perfectly reasonable to populate the world with lots of fictitious little characters that you can adopt as your own. It's just a thought.
I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but actually I would think that it's maybe just another part of Japan's soft power, actually, just taking hold domestically. And I mentioned soft power before, and it's just how a country influences people to like the country, basically. So I think that by just putting like different characters and cute little characters and stuff all over in different like manuals and books and all this stuff as like mascots, especially, it's just another form of the soft power where you see the character and you associate that with something good. So you're like, oh, there's a Pokemon character on that shop, that means that the Pokemon endorses that shop or something like that, and so that means it's good and I should go in there. That's how I would describe it anyway, but whether it's right or not, I don't know.
Whoa, looks like a nice shop.
Well, we can't go in a maid bath.
What, Kuroneko, it's only a black cat. You know, you own cats, right?
Beautiful trains. I've treated myself to the posh carriage, which is currently being cleaned, obviously, because it's Japan. Hasn't been cleaned for the last 20 seconds.
I mentioned this earlier in this episode, but bullet trains were created using wartime technology, and actually the reindustrialization of Japan, based on this kind of technology, actually somewhat reinvigorated Japanese nationalism. But that is a topic for another time.
It's hard to imagine I'm about to visit a place that changed the modern world forever.
This is Hiroshima. I bet when I said Hiroshima, the first thing that came into your minds was not the Mazda car company, for example. It was atomic warfare.
We all know the details. The bomb dropped on August the 6th, 1945, right here.
But the fact is, you cannot come to Hiroshima and not visit the Atom Bomb Memorial Park, not least because it's extremely well done. And you can't come to the Atom Bomb Memorial Park without addressing this rather thorny and delicate subject. So I'm afraid that's what we're going to do.
So there is a lot I can say about the whole idea of the atom bombs and the war. My dissertation was focused on the revisionist nature of Japanese textbooks when discussing Japan's turbulent past. So obviously I've read up on a lot of information regarding how Japan portrays the Second World War. And I'm in no way defending the use of atomic weaponry, nor am I pushing the idea that Japan deserved to be atomically bombed. One of my units during the Masters was about Japanese literature, and I've read some very harrowing texts on the topic. However, it does need to be noted that Japan has a victim complex when it comes to the war. I think I'll save this topic for another video, but I will briefly discuss it, and I would love to hear people's opinions in the comments below. So, roughly 80,000 people died in Hiroshima. It is estimated that between 80,000 and 100,000 people died due to firebombing in Tokyo between 1944 and 45. Of course, these are horrific acts committed by the Allied powers, and I understand that some Japanese wanted the perpetrators to be tried as war criminals. But, and it's a big but, during the Battle of Okinawa, between 100,000 and 150,000 Okinawan civilians were slaughtered. And not just by the Americans, who would have seen them as an enemy and in wartime technically had a right to kill them, but also by the Imperial Japanese Army, because they discriminated against Okinawans themselves, thinking them to be lesser than the mainland Japanese people. Japanese soldiers would murder crying children as they hid in caves. They would force Okinawans onto sentry duties, knowing that they would be easy targets for the Allies, and they forced the older school children to fight on the front lines or serve in medical tents during the horrific battles. And that's just to name a few bad things. So what I'm trying to get at here is that the atomic bombs were horrific, and of course nuclear weaponry should never be used again. But I will just say that there is a reason the Americans felt that they had to use the atomic bombs in the first place. And it's because Japan, who were perpetrators in starting the war, put up an amazing defense where they would fight to the last man. And Okinawa was just a glimpse at that. If they were willing to sacrifice their own Okinawan prefecture, the civilians, in order to stop the Allied powers from getting to the mainland of Japan, then what do you think they would also do while on the actual mainland? The Americans thought that it was necessary to use an atomic bomb. I'm not here to defend that or to support it, but I'm just laying out these facts here so you can make of that what you will.
I'm hoping Professor Tosh Minihara, a Japanese-American historian, can talk me through both sides of this very contentious coin.
If you take away the nuclear aspect of the attack on Hiroshima, what we are looking at in that museum is a commemoration of war and the pity of war, which is universal, isn't it?
Yes, the immense human tragedy is very apparent when you go to the museum.
There's a view in the West that actually Hiroshima and Nagasaki are a sort of fig leaf for Japan, because it allows Japan to say, we suffered the world's only nuclear attack, it's a terrible thing, and it allows them to ignore the terrible things Japan did.
Yes.
That's a prevalent view amongst Western historians.
There's a reason why Hiroshima and Nagasaki were both bombed, and that's because Japan instigated the war.
Yeah, like I said, Japan has a kind of victim complex with the war. So they think just because they got bombed that they are, and because the emperor who the Japanese people serve was not tried as a war criminal, the Japanese people believe that they are just free of guilt, or free of blame, I should say.
And you're absolutely right to point out that the fact that the two bombs makes Japan a victim. And this, I think, makes it very difficult for Japan to acknowledge the fact that it was the aggressor. Because it's very hard to be the victim and the aggressor at the same time.
The most popular view, if you look at sort of surveys and things in America and Europe, is that the atomic bombs were evil, but they shortened the war against a country that wouldn't surrender, and that would have cost millions of casualties if the war had been concluded with the land-based invasion, and would probably have destroyed the Japanese people forever.
Yeah, again, like I said earlier, if they were willing to do that to their own prefecture of Okinawa, imagine what would have happened if the Allied forces got to the mainland. Imagine how much Japan would have been destroyed in order to attempt to defend its homeland.
Yes, absolutely right.
Is that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. If Japan had not surrendered on August 15th, the Russians would have come down. and would have taken at least all of northern Japan.
And Russia invading is another factor. Personally, I don't know too much about it, but I do know that it was a really prominent force pressuring the Japanese government as well. And there is obviously work to say that Japan was already thinking about surrendering because of the threat of Russia. But we, at the end of the day, we don't know about that realistically because the bombs happened first.
So we'd have ended up with Korea.
Absolutely, Korea on Japan. You'd have northern Japan, which most likely would not be democratic, would not be free, and then you would have the rest of Japan.
Could you, if you were being very honne about honne, say that the suffering of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is actually the salvation of Japan? That's why they should be revered, because...
And yeah, that's probably what the American officials who gave the go-ahead for the bomb would have said, is that it's a means to an end. The bombing did stop the war early and stop even more deaths. Whether or not that's true is not for us to decide.
That's how I see it.
Really?
Yes.
Are you speaking as an American or a...
No, I am
a new
as
Japanese?
a scholar, as a historian.
Okay.
That their death was not in vain. It did help, Japan maintain the nation as it is today.
Hello viewers, you join us on Miyajima, which is one of the holiest islands off the coast of Japan. It is home to the Itsukushima Shrine, or the Itsukushima Jinja, which is just over there, and that, or the view of that from the water, is one of the 3 great views of Japan.
And we'll end off episode 5 with a view of one of the most popular sites to put on a travel brochure of Japan. If I could go back and add this to the bingo card, I probably would. And that's it for the episodes. Let's wrap up by looking at the bingo card once again. As you can see, quite a few of the squares are filled out, meaning that James May's Our Mind of Japan is pretty cliche. I'm going to give it a 6.5 on the cliche meter, which is definitely a real thing that I haven't just made up and created in 5 minutes on MS Paint. James May obviously does a lot of cliche things, but he also does a lot of completely different things, just because it's what he personally wants to do. And it's things that you don't normally get to see in these kinds of shows about Japan. I didn't show a lot of it because it wasn't really things that I could commentate on, but he visited things like car factories and rode motorcycles and all that stuff, which is a nice breath of fresh air from a lot of other media centred on Japan. He just did what he wanted to do. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on anything I've said in this video in the comment section down below, and leave a like and subscribe while you're down there if you like this content and want to see more. Also, let me know what kind of shows you'd like me to review next time. Thanks for watching, see you guys later, bye!